All right, so since Franklin Pierce is basically the president that causes Bleeding Kansas and a lot of hoopla with that one, there was a pretty big search going on once the Democrats were basically just like, we're not going to mess with Franklin Pierce again. You're not allowed to be our candidate for president anymore. There was a search for Kansas-less candidates, or candidates that really didn't have anything to do with the whole mess of Bleeding Kansas, because the Democrats are getting blamed for that pretty hard. The Republicans, they were a brand new party, specifically created because of Bleeding Kansas. They chose John C. Fremont, and his platform was no further extension of slavery. The Democrats, they picked James Buchanan. His platform was popular sovereignty in territories. Let the people decide. Let them vote. That's the same thing that made Bleeding Kansas happen. Oh. And the Americans, the nativists, the Know Nothing Party, the racists, they picked ex-president Millard Fillmore. And his platform was, I hate Catholics, and I hate people coming from other countries. I'm anti-Catholic and I'm anti-immigrant. The result was Buchanan won, and the Democrats were split between the North and the South. James Buchanan, he's the 15th president of the United States, and he was president March 4th, 1857, March 4th, 1861. And he is a slimy, slimy character indeed. James Buchanan, the 15th president of the United States, was a moderate Democrat whose efforts to find a compromise in the conflict between the North and the South failed to avert the Civil War. Basically, he's famous for having tried to avoid the coming Civil War and brutally failing. Like, oh man, he fails hard. The Civil War starts. Buchanan, yeah. Buchanan never married and remains the only bachelor president. In 1819, when he was 28 years old, he became engaged to Anne C. Coleman. He broke off the engagement for an undisclosed reason, and shortly after Coleman died, possibly from a suicide. Yeah. When the woman you propose to, she accepts, and then for some reason that we don't know about, they break off their engagement, they go their separate ways, and a little while later she dies, and people are pretty sure she committed suicide. James Buchanan. In Congress, Buchanan sided with the South, and although he felt that slavery was morally wrong, he did not want the country to eliminate the institution by what he called the introduction of evils infinitely greater. From his perspective, a greater evil would be to free the slaves. And what he said was that abolishing slavery by the massacre of the high-minded and of the chivalrous race of men in the South, that'd be bad. That would not be good at all. Although well endowed with legal knowledge and experience, Buchanan lacked the soundness of judgment and conciliatory personality, he had problems apologizing, to undo the hatreds of sectionalism and thereby to deal effectively with the slavery crisis. His strategy for the preservation of the Union consisted in the prevention of Northern anti-slavery agitation and enforcement of the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Yeah, all this problems with slavery and possible civil war, it'll all go away if we just punish the people complaining the most. Embroiled in the explosive struggle in Kansas over the expansion of slavery, he attempted to persuade Kansas voters to accept the unpopular Lecompton Constitution, which would have permitted slavery there. The economic panic of 1857 and the raid on the arsenal at Harper's Ferry, Virginia, in 1859 by the abolitionist John Brown added to the national turmoil. Buchanan's position was further weakened by scandals over financial improprieties within his administration. He's corrupt. At 1860, at the Democratic National Convention, a split within the National Democratic Party resulted in two candidates for president, and this split allowed the Republican candidate Abraham Lincoln to attain the electoral votes needed to win. On December 20th, 1860, South Carolina immediately voted to secede from the Union because Abraham Lincoln had gotten elected. By February of 1861, 7 Southern states had seceded. This is happening while Buchanan is president. So Lincoln gets elected. There's a point in time where he's president-elect, meaning he's been elected, but he has not actually been sworn in. He's not official. So Buchanan is still president, but he's going to stop being president by March 4th. While all that stuff is happening, these states are seceding. Buchanan denounced the secession, but admitted that he could find no means to stop it, maintaining that he had no authority to decide what shall be the relation between the federal government and South Carolina. Basically saying, I don't like that you're leaving, but the law doesn't say I can do anything about it. I'm sorry. His cabinet members began to resign, and stopgap measures were rejected by Congress. War was inevitable. The president refused to surrender any of the federal forts that he could hold, however, and he ordered reinforcements. January 1861, sent to Fort Sumter at Charleston, South Carolina. However, when the federal supply ship was fired upon by the shore batteries, it turned back. The second relief mission came far too late for Buchanan to actually act. As the crisis deepened, he seemed impatient for his time in the White House to run out. Oh, this is going really bad. This is not going well. Can I just not be president anymore? He would not stop the coming crisis, and it would be up to the next president to save the Union in a civil war. The next president being Abraham Lincoln. I hope you're learning, and I hope you're having fun.